It's funny to me every time. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm awkward on camera. So I'm Madame Onca, and this is Totally Tea and Tarot. So here's the tea part, and here's the tarot part. So I'm the artist and co-author of the World Spirit Tarot, so you can find that on the internet. So if you're so inclined, I sell the decks. It's in the second edition and all that stuff. But what we're doing in this blog series is we are walking our way through the cards one at a time with a quick overview of the cards and a quick nod to the herbal tea, or the herbs at least, that correspond according to the authors of the Herbal Tarot. So today we are doing the Four of Cups with my one little owl cup. And those folks made the correspondence of Burdock. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Burdock. I can tell you this is what it looks like in a strainer. It's been steeping for a while. I suspect it's going to be very earthy. And medicinally speaking, it's supposed to be good for stimulating the lymphatic system and as a blood purifier. So generally that means trying to get your health up. Let's see. It's definitely warm and earthy. There's like a little bit of a sweet note. It feels like it would do really well complemented with, I don't know, like orange rind or something that would fill in that little space in the middle. But it's good. Hopefully we'll all be smarter and healthier. My blood will be pure and my thoughts will be full. So, now onto the tarot part. So we are doing the Four of Cups. And, yeah, Four of Cups. And what I've been doing in this series is bringing out 3 different decks. So we usually work with one of mine. Some iteration of a very traditional, like Rider Waite Smith type of deck. And then we have had our special guest. So here's my deck. World Spirit Tarot. Here is the Rider Waite or Rider Waite Smith deck, classic. And this, our special guest for this particular series, the Fours, we are working with the Light and Shadow Tarot by Brian Williams and Michael Gepford. I believe Brian wrote the book and Michael made the art. It's lovely. It's really lovely. Although today we will see one of the places where cards can really diverge, and it depends on which tradition you find feeds you. And there's no right or wrong answer, right? This is an evolving tradition that has come to us over hundreds of years, from now hundreds of authors, hundreds of artists, and many, many different sort of cultural currents, you might say, because there are some people who are devoted to the herbal correspondence, to the astrological correspondence, to the horological, meaning, the hours of the day. There's no end to the sort of layers that you can choose to add, or you can just go, oh wow, I love crabs, that makes me happy, and use that as your point of departure. There is no right or wrong way to read the cards, but information is always good. So we'll see today how these diverge slightly. So let's start with Pamela Colman Smith's version. If you don't already know about her life, I highly encourage you to go read about it. Stuart Kaplan did a great overview of her. Mary K. Greer has brought a lot of scholarship to that. She was an interesting female entrepreneur who brought us this particular body of work, which is in some ways, in my opinion, never been bettered. And that's as an artist who tried really hard to better it. But I know a certain level of mastery when I see it. So fours, of course, just as we mentioned last week, describe a certain level. It's like the cup has been filling. If you'll forgive the overlap metaphorically, it's as if the qualities of the suit have been sort of building up, and now there's a sense of a plateau. Maybe it's stable, maybe it's stuck. This card is sometimes described as apathy. Or depression even. So there's a sense of, or it almost looks like ennui in this case. He's got his arms crossed, his body language is very sort of closed off, and there's this, while there are 3 cups present, there's also this sort of miraculous, in the Gummy Bear Tarot, they call it the paw of the creator. So there's this hand sort of presenting this almost a Holy Grail-like cup to the person who appears to not even see it. So we have this notion from this, presented in this card, that it's as if the emotional life has met its first level of disappointment. So there's been an abundance of feeling, and now is sort of like the emotional hangover, you might say. I think of this card as somebody who is feeling emotionally overwhelmed and cut off. So as you see in my version of this same card, trying to avoid the glare there. So they are literally, there's this road behind them. There's a path, either to where they are or away from where they are, and yet they are sort of separated from the ground. They're not one with the earth. There's a sense of being removed, and this person has their head in their hands, feeling overwhelmed. There's a certain amount of milk that is spilt. The little mouse represents that element of knowledge that says, you realize it's right there the whole time. Just look up. Look anytime you want to look up. It's right there. the magic feather. The secret was within you the whole time. So there's this notion that this person is cut off from themselves or their sense of source. And when they are ready to let go of the full, being committed to really wallowing in the perhaps well-earned despair, misery, sadness, sorrow, or isolation, it's right there. There's an opportunity to step up and move out. So again, we have, depression, apathy, sort of, again, the emotional hangover, I want to call it. Now this deck, which often you'll find that these meanings, from book to book, it's neck and neck. And this is where the comparative part of working with different decks is really useful. In this particular deck, they describe this at its best. It is an abundance of emotional fulfillment. At its worst, it is lassitude. It is almost emotional indolence, like taking things for granted, and the influence of lunar things. Because, between you've got little Pisces there, I guess, and the moon. So there's a lot of watery stuff, and it's almost, it is a flood. And it could be a flood of good things, it could be a flood of bad things. But the tone in this card, the description and the art, I would say, while it is, it's not menacing, it's definitely it is suggestive. It suggests that there are things here that are maybe not being seen, but more felt. Whereas these ones are very much a literal description of, like, you are having a bad day, you need a nap, you need some self-care, you need some compassion, you need to make variations on your usual life choices. So, yeah, it's very interesting that these both, they diverge broadly. And in my experience as a person who's done a lot of comparative work, if you're that kind of person, make notes. And you can really start to see where when meanings diverge from artist to artist and author to author, sometimes it's a reflection of their cultural tradition. Sometimes it is a reflection of their personality. And you can really say, this is how this artist lives their life and perceives things. And this is why we find ourselves on a less beaten path in terms of these traditional meanings. And sometimes it's actually because they are, deeply steeped in a different tradition. Maybe they are more Crowleyan. Maybe they are really more into the astrological meanings. So no right or wrong, but definitely different. So when this comes up for me, I usually think that somebody is just, they've been doing too much. They're worn out. They have nothing left to give. They are encountering disappointment and frustration, perhaps in some ways for the first time. So a little compassion comes in handy, and a sense of humor. And maybe drink some Burdock tea. Maybe get a little blood purification in your brain. So 4 of Cups. Again, cups is water, the realm of emotion. To a certain extent, also creativity and spirituality, depending how a person experiences those things. But it is definitely about the watery realms of how we feel things. So that's our synopsis for today. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me either on the internet or in the comment section. How did this video get so long? Again, it's World Spirit Tarot with Lauren Onca O'Leary. You can come to Tuscany in Italy with me this summer if you want to go do some yoga and tarot. You can find information about that at Ren Adventures, Ren with one N.com. I also sell decks online on Amazon and Etsy and so forth if you like the art or you like the perspective. Please stay in touch and drink your tea.